The EdUp Innovator Series is brought to you by MyBank AI. Thousands of users and universities are using MyBank AI to increase scalability and learning impact with AI digital twins that look, sound, and think like the professors they represent. These digital twins support students 24/7, answer questions instantly, and extend learning far beyond the classroom. Get your free account courtesy of EdUp and go beyond what's possible in higher ed today with MindBank AI. Click on the link in the episode description for your free account. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Open Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. We are back on another episode of our Innovators Series, EdUp Innovators Series, sponsored by MyBank AI. And with me for this series, I have the co-host. He is Thomas Thatcher. He's the CEO at Integrity for Education. Tommy, how you doing today?
Hey, Elvin. Hi, Ramon. I'm doing fine today. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's get him in. He is our guest today, ladies and gentlemen. He is Professor Dr. Ramon O'Callaghan. He's the president of Gisma University of Applied Sciences. Ramon, how you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So we love to get right into it, Ramon. Tell us all about Gisma University. What do you do? How do you do it? Where you're located? Tell us about your students.
Yeah, Gisma University has a long history on the one hand, because it was established many years ago, 25 years ago, but it was a Gisma Business School. The new version of Gisma actually was established 5 years ago in the state of Brandenburg in Germany, which is very close to the capital, Berlin. In fact, we have two campuses, one here in Potsdam and one in Berlin. So we focus on two segments, if you wish, on two areas. One is business and the other one is computer science and data sciences. So we believe in the combination of the two as the future of leaders in business and technology. So if I could define, there are three words, I guess, that define our mission and what we stand for. One would be international. We have 95% of our community, let's call it students and faculty, come from 100 countries around the world, and all is taught in English. So that makes us very unique in the German context, I would say. The other thing, it's quality. We stand for quality, and we want to be known for that. So we're going through many international accreditation processes, and which helps us improve what we do and become better. And the other one is, of course, we grow. We're growing at a fast pace, luckily. As I said, in a way, we started the new Gisma 5 years ago. We left the startup phase. We are really a scale-up phase with all the problems that this entails, right? So, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that we have a very applied focus, right? So, our official name is University of Applied Sciences, and applied means that it's practice-oriented teaching and application-oriented research with a lot of context with industry. And we, in fact, require that our faculty members have had some industry experience.
That's fantastic. And my follow-up question before I hand it over to Tommy is, so first of all, it's kind of a two-part. So how long have you been there as the president? And what is one innovative program that you're very proud of that maybe you brought it on or you spearheaded or it was created while you were there? Tell us about how long you've been there and a very innovative program that you're very proud of.
All right. Okay. So I've been there for 2 years almost. So I started in early 2024. I've been in positions of leadership in higher education institutions for a while. I mean, 20 years, I guess, and in 5 different countries. So I would say I am an academic entrepreneur. And in that sense, what I really like is, growing the institution, developing the institution. It's difficult to pinpoint one individual program because, as I said, it's more the portfolio that I tend to look at, just to make sure that we have a portfolio that is in line with what the market needs are, and what are the market needs? Well, we can talk about this later. Maybe that's one of your subsequent questions, but clearly, what you see, we don't launch any, we're a private institution. Maybe I forgot to say that. So we have to be very much in line with what the market wants, because otherwise, the customers vote with their feet and their wallet. So if they don't like what we do, they don't come back, or they don't even come in the first place. So we don't launch, we don't introduce any program which is not backed by market research. So in that sense, we have programs on AI applications, data sciences, all the hot topics that many people are concerned about these days, not only in business but in society at large.
Fantastic. And it's funny because I've heard students are also voting with their clicks now. Not just the feet, right? They clicks and they can click out and they can go somewhere else. So that's a good call. Tommy, over to you.
So
Yeah.
we're expanding in that regard. We're expanding the portfolio, but we're including programs like influencer marketing, just to give you an idea, right? So that's these are very current topics, I would say. So anyway, sorry, you wanted to ask something else, yeah?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to come back, Ramon. Thank you. Very interesting. But did you say how many students are enrolled in your organization?
No, I didn't say that, but I can mention that.
That
It's
would be
about
great.
3,000, and we have
Oh,
undergraduate programs. We have undergraduate programs and graduate programs as well, right? So undergraduates are the bachelor's and graduates are the master's and MBA, all right? So, and that's why we have two campuses. The graduate programs are here in Potsdam, and the undergraduates are in Berlin.
in Berlin. All right, I got that. Okay, and if you think about, like you said, you're in a scale up phase, which brings a lot of, I don't know, it's an institution, right? It's an education institution, but it's like a company. So company building has also a lot to do with it, I assume. And innovation will drive your business. So if education in a private context is, I would assume it's a business model also, like teaching, but also you earn money on that. What innovations you think are most important to scale up? So what do you think about that?
Right. I think I would say, look, it's funny because we have had this discussion before. We had the pains of growth, but the pains of transitioning from the entrepreneurial phase to the next phase, which is, in the beginning there were a couple of guys here rolling up the sleeves, and like the garage phase, if you wish. So they were doing everything, running
Yeah,
around, and systems were everything in small spreadsheets and things like that. So the challenge is to grow. But you're right, it's not only human resources but also technical infrastructure. So we need to have appropriate systems, CRMs, ERPs, and of course increasingly thinking like all academic institutions and everybody, how to incorporate AI in some of these processes. So this is probably an entirely new other discussion we can have, and I'm sure we may want to come to that. But I think the digitalization aspect is important for scaling up properly. So we're introducing new systems, recently a new payroll system, approval of things for travel. You have to enter that into the system, and that goes forward to the different, there's a workflow that goes around that. So it's I would say, making our business more digital to be able to scale up. I think it's part of the process. But of course, bringing in the right people, which are not just the original entrepreneurs, but people who can think a little bit more systemic in a systemic way and systematic, I would say. So, so that we can put in place processes and procedures to, not for bureaucracy's sake. We cannot afford to be bureaucracy. We have to be agile and fast moving, which we are in comparison with the average state university here, obviously. But we have no choice. That's what we have to do.
I understand. That was more on the organizational institutional side. I get that, but talking about the learners, so the customers, if you so want, so they do expect digital usability, user path learning environment that are, I don't know, made for students, right? So do you also think about applying processes, systems, digital innovations to improve or to keep whatever, like maybe to improve and the existing learner journeys to foster the outcome, the learning, like the result in the end? And if so, what is that?
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. We take into account the student journey, from the very moment they apply, and they get in touch with us, which in some cases, of course, has to be follow up personal interviews. That part has to be done to assess the quality of the candidate and their motivation. More importantly, why would you come from country A to Germany, or country B, country C, whatever? So that is the first part. But here on campus, of course, we have an LMS, a learning management system based on Canvas, which is a very well-known system in academia, which is very much praised by everybody, because everything is there. Everybody can access to it. It helps learners, it helps faculty, it helps administration. So this is the hub. What in manufacturing companies would be the ERP, right? So, for example, so everything revolves around that, and that's very important. Now, beyond that, of course, there are some labs that we are introducing gradually, like robotics and AI, having powerful servers for the AI courses and things like that. Some of that is still in progress. We're building it up, but we have a clear direction of where we want to go in that regard. Yeah.
That's interesting. So thank you for that background information. So talking about AI, so do you already utilize AI in student learning processes or in admission, enrollment, back office processes?
To be quite honest, that's the part of the business I am not so much into it. I'm just the president.
Okay.
I've
No
somebody
worries.
as a CEO friend of mine once said, I am responsible for everything but guilty of nothing. So,
Right.
so ultimately, the buck stops with you, but you do not always know what happens at the. No,
Sure.
I know that it's being used in some areas, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how it works and how it's being used. But I know it is there somewhere. Yes.
So I was more coming from a strategic angle. So is that a topic you see like coming up pretty quick that you need to apply AI, and if so, which would be the areas you would go ahead with it?
Yeah, look, definitely, we see that, and in fact, there is even a faculty member of ours, a professor, who, based on our experience, has actually written a book on it's a practice-based account of generative AI and how to integrate it in postgraduate courses, course redesign, delivery, but also the assessment redesign and the evaluation, and how we adapt in that context. So this book is published by Springer and it's released now in February. So it introduces it as a knowledge collaborator, and reports practical approaches on how to redesign group activities and research-driven tasks and things of that nature, I guess. So, but it's a bit of a guideline, because it gives practical methods on how to do that. So this can be a model for others. So that's one of the first books that is being published in this regard. So I think it's going to be something quite important and quite useful. Okay, I think that's about it.
Yeah, so I get it. So, but there is a strong like will or demand to go in that direction. I'm pretty sure that students will ask it pretty soon anyway, if they don't do already. Just coming from going on with that. So, is your organization more an online campus, or is every student like on site? Like in a classroom, and you follow up like with the flipped classroom approach, for example. You have those like lecture sessions in lecture halls, and then you go home and do your learning like by yourself, utilizing all the digitalization gimmicks you might have available.
I get your question. I think, look, ironically or interestingly, I would say, the school, the university was founded during the pandemic period. If I said 5 years ago, it's 2020. Remember where we were in 2020, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
It started really with a strong digital approach, because that's what we were all doing. We were all forced into doing that. I was in a previous institution, and we all had to go home and start launching. So that means that from the beginning, it was equipped to do what today we call it hybrid, right? So that we can be in the classroom and you
Sure.
can be, online. Now, in Germany, to be an online, let's say, operator, an online institution, educational institution, you need to have a separate license, so to speak, right? So you have to be, it's like a different type of business. So we're allowed to do some of that, but in principle, we are not, we are face to face, okay?
Yeah.
When do we use that? We use that in some, we have many foreign students, as I mentioned, some coming from distant countries, they need visas. And now, given the geopolitics these days, everything gets more complicated in terms of getting visas to come to study, even in Germany, even though it's a much more welcoming country than other countries that I don't have to mention. So, in that regard, we allow them to participate in the classes online up to a point. They cannot take the entire program online.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point,
I got
we
it.
give
Yeah.
them. If you're not here in, let's say, 6 months, sorry, but you have to apply or come back next year, because that's not what it is. You're missing on the group dynamics, on a lot of things, which we believe are important.
Yeah, that's an interesting point I wanted to ask or follow up with anyway. So, because if you think about all this digitalization and upcoming AI, there is like a whole lot discussion going on, like a big discussion going on. We're talking about academic integrity as just at the beginning. AI is a threat to that. We know that. So there is maybe technology you can fence like your environment and make it more secure from academic integrity standpoint of view. But in general, what would you say? Like, what are the threats, the upcoming threats you see applying maybe too much of a digital agenda or a AI agenda to your organization?
In one word, is we lose the human dimension. There
Do we
is
lose
no.
it? So is it really that we lose it? Sorry
No,
to cut in, but
no, we miss it.
all right.
Okay,
All right.
maybe that's the wrong wording, but of course there is no way to turn our backs now on the new technologies. Progress has always been to a large extent shaped by technology developments, but technology is an enabler. Technology allows you to do new things or old things in new ways. So in that regard, of course, we have to embrace technology, but I don't believe in what many people say, that this is going to be the end of universities. Everything is going to be digital, online. We have been here before. Now it's AI. Some years ago was the internet, right? People were talking about MOOCs, the massive online, systems and so forth, that would
Yeah.
completely disrupt our business and so forth. Guess what? I still see some universities around, so we must still be doing something which is valuable and valued by our clients, right? So I think the real question is, how do we see the future, which is going to be a hybrid, right? Using this technology, as I said, to do things we're doing better and things differently. So what is the role of the universities? What is the role of the instructors in the new world? That is the question. And when I say there are things that cannot be replaced or cannot be done by technology, at least not now, the way I see it evolving. In one report, I don't know if it's McKinsey or whatever, talking about the industries that will be most affected and least affected by AI, the ones that will be least affected will be the ones that it's about caring, right? Healthcare, think about nursing homes, whatever. So in a way, you could say the caring part of our business is also, we should become more of a caring institution. So, things that are much more human, as I was saying, human judgment, creativity, ethical stewardship, sense making, community, meaning. Some of these things, I think, are still at the essence of what universities have to do. Now, of course, knowledge is much more commoditized in the new environment. We know all students, you cannot rely now on a student submitting a report without being suspect of having used ChatGPT in ways they're maybe not supposed to, if the instructor didn't allow them to do, and so forth. So what does that mean? Well, we have to resort in some cases to the old-fashioned oral exams to find out if this is genuine work or not. And I've been in some of those myself because I wanted to see for myself. And I can tell you,
Mhm.
it's very easy to spot whether some work is genuine or not. Of course, the problem of that, and going back to your original question about scalability, unfortunately, this method is not scalable, and that's the problem we are faced. So we have to find other ways of combining technology and human, judgment to address that issue. And different schools go about it in different ways. But if you go back to the Middle Ages, or to, I don't know, or to when education started in small groups in the UK, it still used that small mentorship type of approach, right? So when master and apprentice, when people are very close, so that is one way in which you can still. And speaking about values, for example, right? How do you instill values? How do you shape character, which is very important for young people? Um, I mean, if you're in an executive course, that's a different story. By the way, executives also want to come to a classroom to share experiences with others and to network. They don't want to do that online. So that's certainly my experience. I've been in executive education for a number of years. Um, so at the end of the day, I think there's, speaking in commercial terms, there is a market for everything, and there are different target groups, right? So there are people who would love, and Gen Z or whatever may want to engage much more online. There are other programs and other target groups that still may want to come and do things face to face for the networking, for the discussions, for all the peer-to-peer learning that emerges when you are in a group of people who have a lot of knowledge also based on their own experiences, which clearly is the case in executive education or even in graduate programs. Less so in undergraduates, I must admit.
Yeah, I do agree 100%. Elvin, I think that's a good it's a good conclusion. So but just one thing I have on top of my head is would you say it's worth to look or deep dive in technology to augment the abilities, also maybe the capacity of the real faculty member, your staff members, those experts, in a way that they free themselves up to have this one-on-one discussion and experience with students. So I think capacity is what limits everything, right? We talked about scalability. No one has limitless time. So 24 hours, that's it. So for all of us, it doesn't matter what. And there is a little bit of sleep, and then you need to get something to eat and drink. So if you just deduct everything, you have like a time limit. Everyone has that. So would you say it's worth to investigating in that direction to figure out digital and maybe modern ways to augment like capacity to just free up the time for I don't know, like physical, personalized, one-on-one or individualized like interactivity with people?
Yes, I think uh, this is the real question. And I said before that we have to find ways of utilizing technology for and it's a hybrid world. At the end of the day, it's clearly helping us in many ways. Sometimes you write something, and you want to make sure that the style is correct. You submit it to ChatGPT and it changes it. It's very nice. You want it more aggressive, you want it more diplomatic, that type of thing, no? And you need to send it. I do it sometimes. um, but the question is, okay, what are the more mundane tasks, or not so mundane tasks, but when we had websites, we have the frequently asked questions, right? So
Yeah.
well, clearly there's a body of knowledge that can be programmed and through AI generate bots that give appropriate responses. Some people, of course, will go beyond that. I mean, as I said, there is a market for everything, and this is not my. I mean, as I said, since I've been in the executive education, I like the face-to-face and the interaction. But other people think that avatars, right, can speak better and gesticulate better than you, perhaps, and they have, they envisage a space in which all the knowledge and even the questions that students may ask. So, because one thing is one directional, lecture in which the professor exposes the theory or whatever it is. But the other thing is the student interacting with that virtual avatar, which behind it has all this body of knowledge that the professor had, and is able to answer back Okay, I've seen models of that still in a beta version, experimental, but that's definitely a way that I see this going. As I said, is this better than others? As I said, I think the human component, in my opinion, still is important, but it is undeniable that this is something that's going to happen. It's happening, and there's going to be a lot of space for education in that form. That's on the teaching side. On the other side, on the other things that faculty do, well, grading assignments, for example, right? This
Mm.
is also an ethical type of thing. To what extent you cannot and you don't want to rely exclusively on AI, and students would be
Sure
outraged
not. No.
if they hear that. On the other hand, I said to a faculty member, look, as an experiment, I said, when you grade a paper, how do you do it? Well, you have in mind some things that you want to be in there, right? So why don't you
Rubrics.
bring
Oh,
that
yeah,
exactly?
absolutely.
Why
Yeah.
don't you bring these rubrics and these concepts on the prompt that you give to ChatGPT and see what happens? See what type of feedback you will get from ChatGPT and compare that to what you would say. The professor did it, and to my surprise, he came up and said, "You know what? He did a good job. That's exactly what I said." He
Yeah.
said, "You see?" So that answers your question. So it is possible, and it's going to be effective. Now, do we want to do that? Well, then we get into the ethical domain, right? Should be a combination of both, perhaps. That ChatGPT is a first, and then the professor, goes over it and says, "Yeah, in fact, I agree because that's what I would have said." I don't know. I think we're still struggling with many of these things, but it's undeniable that it will provide for more efficient operations at all levels. The academic and the non-academic part of our business.
Interesting. You bring all those points. Those are making my days. So talking about the avatar, you might have heard about pilot projects we did with ACAD University down in Stuttgart, for example, or we just starting one with Technical University Munich, talking exactly about this kind of avatar that you can teach and curate and just like augment capacity. I think that's all about it. It's never about replacing. And also interesting, you mentioned or focus a little bit on this grading piece, where I see a lot of demand in the market that people just get overwhelmed by the work that has to be done. And then you have like this correction processes. You have the first corrector, second corrector. If they're not like have a united idea of or joint idea of how the grade should look like, then there is a third corrector. So this, of course, is like very, very time consuming and sometimes very subjective as well. So technology maybe can help to objectivize a little bit. But very interesting, you're touching upon all those points, because I see from my point of view exactly the same direction, that where there is a lot of effort in repetitive task, you might be able to add some help, some support, technology support to free up time for I don't know, more meaningful task and fostering students stuff. Yeah. All right. Agreed. Elvin, I think that would have been my questions. I heard a lot, and it was very interesting to deep dive, like in your view, specifically on this way, like from a startup now to a scale up situation, where there is a lot of I don't know, decisions to be made specifically on every technology, on the learning concept, and so on and so on. Like a lot of decisions every day. I can imagine that.
Yeah, it's those are interesting times to say the least, right? So, but,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
it all depends how we manage this into the future. And as I said, technology is an enabler, but there is also imagination. I would say,
Yeah.
people sometimes cannot imagine things that don't exist, but you should, open your mind, and the little sparkle that one of these technologies brings to you, you should immediately, try to think beyond the obvious and try to shoot for the stars, as they say, and at least you'll get somewhere. So,
And if you only find out ways that are not working well, it will
yes,
just lead you towards the path that might work after all. Yeah, absolutely.
right. Yeah. So I think,
Very cool.
I mean, I I've been in, that was my domain, management of technology, and I was trained as an electrical engineer or electronics, and I worked with computers but that was, of course, decades ago, and it's another generation. So I've always had an interest in technology. When don't get me wrong, when I said, and you corrected me, the human only, no, it's human and technology, but we should not forget the human side, because, I've
No,
been
right.
with
Sure.
many years, I still see that the human element cannot disappear in something as important as it is for education, which at the end of the day, we're shaping the future leaders, and we have to instill values, not just knowledge, right? And this is what technology per se cannot do. But anyway, I think, as I said, these are interesting times, and we should make
Mhm.
the best out of it.
I think the
So,
history is over a little bit, right? Sorry, Elvin, but
no, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a last comment on that. But I think the history times with AI is over now, and now we get in a normalized conversation about what you can and cannot do, which is very cool. So from my point of view, the history times has been, as always, like very
Yeah.
historic.
It's good you mentioned that. I remember many years ago when we were on the internet boom,
Yeah,
everybody was talking about the internet revolution and things like that. So I once wrote, that the internet revolution has arrived when nobody talks about it.
true. Yeah,
That's the same, because then it has become commonplace. Who talks about now
yeah,
electronic commerce and things? We used to teach those things years ago because it was new. We had to open the eyes to the executives and in academia everywhere, because look, this is the potential that the new technology is bringing up. So, same thing is happening with AI now. 5 years
absolutely,
from now, maybe it will be commonplace. It will be embedded in our processes, and we will not talk about it the same way we talk now. Um,
absolutely. That's
and
true.
of course, the other aspect of AI is all the stock market and the investments, but that's for another day, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a totally
It's
different discussion.
very, very interesting to see what's happening in who the players are, and how the whole supply chain or whatever is
Yeah,
evolving. That's going to be an interesting discussion anyway.
agreed.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
that was it from my
No,
side.
that
that
was
was
it.
great.
Yeah,
Great
thank you. I
conversation.
did, as I said in the beginning, I didn't know exactly what to expect, but it came out very natural and very, very, very friendly. Very, how should I say? Well, it was a good conversation. Let me put it like this, right? So,
Ramon, I still have one last question for you. So,
please.
what do you see as the future of higher education? And you can talk about. I love to talk about like what's going to happen with Gisma University. What are the plans for the future? And if you want to talk about the difference between the U.S. Higher ed and international higher ed,
Right.
So if you can
Yeah.
kind of cover all that, that'd be great.
Well, look, I did my PhD in the US, so I know both systems, and I've been in Europe many years, obviously, in Asia as well. If you Google me now, you Chat GPT me, you can see you can see my background. But so in the US, I think business schools, and I refer to business schools because that's more where I've been most of my academic life. Um, tend to be more academic, meaning the funding is generous compared to what is here in Europe. So, except for the state ones, the private ones like ours have to be, as I said, much more applied, much more down to earth, much more looking for partnerships with industry, and so forth. I think that experiential learning aspect is much more relevant and important to us. So we have elements here that maybe I didn't mention in the introduction because I didn't want this to be a sales pitch, right? That's for the potential applicants. But I think we have one term every term. I mean, we have 1 week and we stop the classes, and that week is devoted to it's the industry week. So we invite companies to come here. Companies make presentations of what do they do. They present their challenges to us. We run hackathons. Students work in thesis projects, which is their end of studies project. The thesis is around a practical problem, still using methodology, of course, as a research question anchored in a real business area, and so forth. So I see much more of that happening in Europe, and certainly at institutions like ours. that makes it very, very applied, as I said. So we're a School of Applied Science. So that's the essence of what we do, and that practical component, I think it's very important. Of course, we have advisory boards where we have people from industry. As I said, when we bring new programs to market, we make sure that we have contacted our, and even then, subsequently, we ask, are those the skills that you want to see in the people? Are we producing? I always say, our clients are the students. Well, no, the students is one of our clients. The other clients are the companies where we have to sell our product, which are our graduates, right? So, and then we have the faculty, because we are recruiting international faculty, and we also have to make them attractive to them. We have to be able to position ourselves in such a way that what we do is interesting for them, both in teaching, research, and this applied approach. So that's the challenge. That's what we have to do as an institution, to
Nice.
take care of these three markets, right? So as we grow, and do it effectively, and in a way that we can scale up efficiently.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that industry week idea. I think that's fantastic. That's a huge takeaway for me. I love that very much. So let me first outro my guest co-host, Thomas Fash. He's CEO at Integrity for Education. Thank you as always, Tommy. Let me outro our guest today. He is Professor Dr. Ramon O'Callaghan, President at Gisma University of Applied Sciences. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp. Thank you for listening to this episode of EdUp Innovators, brought to you by MindBank AI. Scale your ability to teach, learn, and earn with an AI digital twin of yourself or your staff with the help of our sponsor, MindBank AI. Try the platform for free, courtesy of EdUp, and go beyond what's possible in higher ed today with MindBank AI. Click on the link in the episode description for your free account.